What if I told you that in 2024, you can get the experience of a $200 keyboard in just $100? This is Chilkey ND75, a marvelous feat of engineering in terms of design, and it has incorporated so many things like ball catch design, triple mounting style, and magnetic connector that are some of the first in the sub $100 price segment. The bonus is a nice LCD display. The board comes in with 5-pin hot swap PCB with south-facing RGB LED, lovely sounding and feeling stock switches, and tri-mode connectivity, all packaged in a starting price of just $100. The board was sent to me by the folks at Chilkey, but all the impressions are solely mine. This is my extensive and long-term review after 3+ months. To be fair, the $100 keyboard segment is getting really good, with pretty decent aluminum keyboards having great switches, unique mounting styles, great design and build, solid keycaps, and QMK support. And ND75 is one such. This is a 75% keyboard with exploded function row. So in this review, I will judge the keyboard from two perspectives. Number 1, a pre-built point of view, and number 2, a custom point of view, since the board is sold in both formats. The main difference between these two is that there is an option to get a 1.6mm non-flex cut PCB at a starting price of just $90. These are available at Chilkey's own website and various reputed global vendors. The board is available in 4 colorways and the case is made out of CNC aluminum. The white one is E-coated and rest are anodized. The finishing on the case is really top-notch, unlike the first generation of aluminum keyboards that had a rough finish and prone to being dirty all the time. The case is really solid and didn't find any case ping or whatsoever. At the back, there is this nice engraved aluminum backplate that looks nice. The battery and the Type-C module are hidden behind this backplate. Case feels really premium in hand and solid. As I've said earlier, this is one of the pioneer boards that have implemented ball catch mechanism under $100. It's kind of similar to the plastic gasket mounted boards, so opening it up is pretty easy. Just pull the top frame and voila. The board weighs around 1.7 kg in pre-built configuration. The case comes in with matching cherry profile double-check PVD keycaps. They are quite thick and have conspicuous legends. Looks and feel-wise, they are top-notch and I loved typing on them. Now, let's talk about the PCB. The PCB is a 1.2mm 5-pin hot swap with south-facing RGB LED and flex cut. It uses Haiku hot swap sockets, a clone of Kailh and Gateron. The PCB is connected to the connection module via this magnetic pogo connector. It means no fear of tearing the JST cable while opening the keyboard. And that's a big relief, especially for someone who opens keyboard now and then and has a history of effing up the JST cables. The PCB also supports tri-mode connectivity over USB, Bluetooth and 2.4 GHz dongle. The board has 1000 Hz polling rate on USB and 2.4 GHz mode and 125 Hz on Bluetooth. The Bluetooth mode can allow for pairing with multiple devices across various platforms. Pairing the keyboard is really fast and easy. Beneath the right shift, there is this button to switch between the wired and wireless mode. Also, I think you have already noticed, there isn't any enclosure to keep the dongle or mode switcher outside of the keyboard. This is to ensure a clean design. The battery is 36 mAh and it should last you 2 to 3 days with RGB and display on. Even more if you turn off the RGB and the display. So speaking of the display, at the bottom right there is this LCD display that's dimension is 0.95 inch into 0.55 inch. The display by default shows the time and date, battery percentage, whether it's in Windows or Mac mode, and in which platform it's connected into. It lets you change the RGB mode, it lets you pair with the other devices in Bluetooth mode, and most important thing, you can use these nice GIFs. And that's the display we have been seeing in various keyboards in recent times. You cannot see your PC status like CPU usage and whatnot. Let's talk about the plate and the mounting style, or I should say styles. Sets it apart from all the other similar spec boards. It has 3 distinctive mounting styles: split O-ring, silica gel and top mount. In the O-ring mounting, various O-rings are attached to the PCB extension. When it's placed inside of the case, they get attached to the enclosure in the bottom PCB. This is kind of a hybrid of a traditional PCB gasket mounted with an O-ring gasket. And as for the top mount, it is the OG top mount with the screws attached to the top frame. The silica gel mounting is where the silicons are attached into the polycarbonate plate and the silica gel gets enclosed into the bottom frame. This is kind of similar to the gasket bowl used in Tiger Light or Rainy 75. The O-ring gives a bouncy tapping experience in tandem with the FlexCut polycarbonate plate and FlexCut PCB, whereas the silica gel gives a bit of a stiffer feel. Top mount is as it should be, stiff tapping feel with a bit of a resonance during tapping that I really like. Each of the mounting style has its own distinctive tapping feel and sound signature. You will definitely going to hear that during the sound tests. Personally, I like the typing feel and the sound of the top and O-ring gasket mount, but there were some things that still felt a lot to be desired with the mounting styles and sound. I'll explain that in the later part of the video, so stick to it. Now, let's talk about the software. The board doesn't come with QMK VIA. It has a native software that kinda works like VIA in terms of functionality. It allows you to map the secondary layer, program the display, program the RGB, macro and whatnot. However, lacking VIA means that you can program the PCB only on Windows. So for example, if you are a Mac and Linux user, you are going to face issues. Okay, now let's talk about the switches. The Prevail variant comes in with Gateron EF Dopamine Blue switches. It's a 5-pin linear switch with a polycarbonate top, nylon bottom and POM stem. The actuation force is 45 gram at 2 mm distance, bottom out distance of 3.6 mm with 53 gram of bottom out force. It comes in with a 22 mm dual stage springs. Switches comes in mildly factory looped for smooth key press and feel. So what do all these specs translate into? The switches starts lighter and become heavier towards bottoming out. The dual stage spring makes the down press feel more firm and consistent. In addition, the upstroke after lifting your finger is noticeably faster, meaning that there is the ability to achieve rapid keystrokes. The 22 mm long spring allows to have a slower force curve with a higher initial force. In comparison to the traditional linear switches, it's punchier at the top. So that means that if you are a typist, you are gonna have fun tapping on it. Sound-wise, it's more skewed toward deeper and marbly tone. This sound signature on this board is complemented by all the foams used. It uses factory looped plate mounted stabilizers, pour-on plate foam, IXP sheet, PET film and pour-on PCB foam to make the board sound foamy. And personally, I really like the foamy sound. Also, at the each end of the case, there are the silicon extensions that act as force break mode, which is really neat. And in the PCB, there are holes to put in screen stabilizers. Okay, before going into the sound test, I would ask you to subscribe to my channel and follow my social media handles for more such videos on amazing keyboards like this. Also, don't forget to join my Discord server where you will be able to interact with me and the fellow like-minded keyboard individuals. I'll have various perks for the members and I'll be announcing them soon. Okay, let's hear the sound test and you will be the judge of it. Tapping on it was really fun. Sound-wise, it is really lovely. And I think most of the users, especially the newbies, would love it. If you like deep, talky or marbling sounding keyboards, this is the one to have. But however, this also creates another paradox. More foams means the board sounds the same despite different mounting styles. The Gateron EF Linear sounds kinda similar across all mounting styles. The FlexCut PCB has also contributed to this. So, I wanted to see how much I can play around with the foams and sound. For that, I removed the PCB foam, IXP sheet and PET film. Then, I only kept the pour-on plate foam. This is to determine the true sound of the board. Then I did the Tempest tape mod. Added a layer of tape at the back of the PCB to cover the flex cuts. This specific change made the board more flexy and bouncy in split O-ring config. Then I also tried it with polyfill or without polyfill to see whether it makes a difference. Can't add that much of polyfill to begin with since it was difficult to put in back the board. So yeah, let's hear the sound test with all these various combinations. To be fair, the polyfill made the board sound slightly deeper versus without any polyfill. I mean, it's not that much needed since the case is already solid and there are sort of a force break mod done with the silicone attached to the bottom case. The board now definitely sounds less foamy, high-pitched and kinda what an aluminum keyboard should sound like. But if I'm being honest, the true potential of this keyboard is missing due to thinner 1.2mm flex cut PCB. After the mod's done and removing the foam, the top mount is higher pitched than before and with distinctive sound feel of top mount. But still, due to the flex cut plate and the PCB, I was still getting flex in the top mount and it's kinda wasted. In order to get the best top mount experience, get the 1.6mm PCB. However, aluminum plates are now available as add-on for sale on their website. If you want a more fuller and enriching sound experience, try to get the aluminum plate add-on later down the line. In short, I don't mind the sound, but for the enthusiast and many others, the mileage might vary. As for the switches, I recommend going with the ones that would sound and feel right with each mounting style, such as Clacky Tactile for top mount. So let's hear some more sound test. Now, if we look into the pre-built point of view, I don't see any reason to mod it or whatsoever. This is solid across all fronts to begin with, in terms of sound, feel, and whatnot. One can use it right out of the box without any issues. Even in bare bones point of view, it's perfectly usable right in the stock without any sort of modding. Just make sure to use the right and correct switches you want to. Now, let's talk about the cons. Some of them will be a nitpick and, to be fair, not that much of a deal breaker, but I think you should keep them in mind. Number 1. Lack of VIA. As I've said earlier. Boards in similar price range like Rainy 75, Bridge 75 and Warmier RD 75 has VIA. The display is excellent but has only basic level of functions. I had a discussion with some folks in the community and they have said that they would prefer keycaps over this display. If the display was replaceable with some sort of keycaps module, that would have been fine. Also, the display drains a bit more of battery. Another con, the polycarbonate plate with 1.2mm top mount is wasted, as I've said earlier. Isn't as stiff as an aluminum, brass or FR4 plate with top mount with a 1.6mm PCB. So which variant is eligible for whom? If you are someone who wants a keyboard that works just fine right out of the box and doesn't want to take the hassle of choosing keycaps, switches and put them in, go for the pre-built variant. Everything about the pre-built variant is solid, including the keycaps and switches. If you consider the value perspective, the pre-built one is really solid because the difference between the pre-built and the bare bones is just only $10. With an additional $10, you are getting a good set of keycaps and switches. As for someone who has a very specific need and wants to put their own keycaps and switches, go for the bare bones variant. If you're into like me, be sure to go for the 1.6mm non-flex cut PCB for the best sound and top mount experience. You can go for aftermarket plates if you want to. Okay, now how does it compare versus the competition? Its competition at this moment is Rainy 75, Bridge 75, Warmier SK75 and Warmier RD75, along with some other similar offerings that are coming from Attack-Shark, Jinmeng, Ola, VGN, etc. All of these have similar layout, back weight, tri-mode connectivity with gasket ball mounting and QMK VIA compatibility that the ND75 lacks. The ND75 pulls ahead with triple mounting style, ball catch mechanism, magnetic pogo connector, and that display. Bridge 75 also has a ball catch mechanism and magnetic connector. So if you want to know further about how all of this compare, I will be doing a video in the future, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more update. For the next iteration of ND75, here are some of my wish list. Number 1, of course, QMKY compatibility. Number 2, plate materials other than polycarbonate. Number 3, a bit smaller display and use the space for additional keys. Number 4, make the display more functional, add functionality like monitoring your PC specs and whatnot. And number 5, I think it's pretty important, the Bearverse variant should come in unassembled so that folks like me can actually tune the board to the perfection. The design and everything else is solid and they should keep as it is. Well, as an enthusiast, I can only wish for things. If these are actually implemented, I think ND75 will be an unbeatable offering in the future. You might wonder why I have put ND75 into such scrutiny. Because I really love this keyboard. Don't get me wrong, I just wanted to give a proper feedback so that the new iteration can be even better. I hope more boards like this come into the market in future. Competition is always good for us consumers. Okay, it was a very big video and thanks to those who have been there until the end. With all this, I'm wrapping up for today. Goodbye and have a great day.